Hi, I'm Chris Kleva. I'm a member. I've been part of the Open Bench pretty much since the version one. Like I think they'd been maybe open for a couple months when I first started. So that was way back when. That was probably about 5, 6 years ago, if not longer. It's kind of hard to remember. It's been quite a while. So yeah, I'm a member. I also run my business. Well, I would say a community within a community here called the Maine Drone Society. It's right next door. So we meet here quite a bit for different sorts of community projects and meetups, and we maintain some studio space where we keep our equipment and things for our smaller community within this larger community, and kind of share our resources. I'm a API product developer, so essentially I work with app developers to expose legacy systems through REST APIs. So I work with a company called Apogee in Google, which you've probably heard of. It was called Apogee for a long, long time, then Google bought them. But essentially what I do is I help companies expose some of their technology through REST APIs. So essentially a computer programmer, HTTP nerd during the day, and maker pretty much every night and weekend. I'm a technologist by trade, so ultimately anything that seems to present the biggest technical challenge is what's driving me. And I've gone through a lot of different iterations between just doing open hardware, kind of Arduino type of hacking, to working with 3D printers. Did quite a bit with developing computer systems and building servers and that sort of thing. Drones is pretty recent. I'd say we've been getting involved with drones for about a year, and I would say compared to some of the other things that I've been working with, APIs and 3D printers, it's probably one of the most diverse and deep that I've found yet. So it's I haven't come across anything else here that's also required me to understand FAA regulations and FCC regulations and have as much of a entrepreneurial opportunities here in Maine. So when we kind of seen that opportunity, we decided to develop a community around it. And it's really helpful because UAVs is something that people like to do for fun, but there's also a lot of serious commercial applications going on up here in Maine. So we got a good mix of people who are doing it for everything from agriculture, industrial inspection, to real estate, to people that are just using it for creative purposes, like in weddings and commercials and that sort of thing, all the way on to folks that are using it for esports, so doing racing and those kind of things. So I think that's what's drawn me to it, is that the diversity of the community is so vast, as well as the technology is pretty incredible. I mean, who doesn't like flying robots, right? There's always and there's a lot of I'd say there's a lot of our community. It's a pretty tight knit community, especially when it comes to the racing and folks that are doing photography and real estate. They kind of understand they're creating a brand new industry. So that's what kind of works for us being within here, is that we're able to work with a lot of other people that are just infused into our group. Like, so for example, today I met a new member that just joined up, and he's a composite scientist, and we were able to stand here and rap for like 45 minutes about different sorts of carbon fiber and what's the chemical makeup and why would you want to choose one carbon fiber over another, and what are the milling practices of it. And I talked to another guy just the other day that was on the board of some really high-tech company that's been designing drone tethers. So it's helpful to be here and then have the type of community that we do involved with UAVs, but also being able to kind of commingle and cross-pollinate with people from different backgrounds. I started off very young taking stuff apart, and I think taking things apart and making new things out of the things I took apart, I suppose that would kind of constitute somebody as a maker. But ultimately, it's something I've always done. I've always built things, all the way from You know, I remember when I was a kid, my parents had one of those Bose acoustic wave radios, and the big thing about those things is they had like this secret uh, thing that would make the bass really, really deep. um, and you know, I was interested in how that worked. So, and it was a pretty expensive radio at the time. Like, this is back in like late '80s or so. Um, so I took it apart and, you know, figured out how it worked, put it back together, and then ultimately later on, as I was designing my own radio, I kind of copied that. So a big part of what I do for a day job is reverse engineering systems and building new interfaces on top of those systems in the software world. So a lot of what I do here is just kind of taking technology and reverse engineering and building new things. I know I have 3 daughters. I have a 22-year-old now, a 10-year-old, and an 8-year-old, all daughters. And I would say they're all definitely, just from watching me, and they're all in that mindset of, hey, I could buy it, build it, and fix it. I'll probably want to see if I can make it before I buy it, but if I buy it, I want to know how to fix it. If I buy it and I know how to fix it, well, if I learn how to build one from scratch, I can repair it easier than buying it. So just having that kind of mindset of like, okay, well, it's okay to go out and buy your first drone, but you should probably take it apart and see how it works, because if you could learn how to build one from individual parts, it'll be easier for you to maintain it, right? For me, a maker is somebody who, you know, is not afraid to void warranties, and ultimately, you know, they won't own it unless they can repair it. That core principle of what a maker is, that's just somebody who's willing to like look around or see an issue and solve it themselves, right? They're able to you know, have that ingenuity to build something from nothing or fix something that's broken. And I mean, ultimately it's people coming together to make, build, and fix shit. I'd probably say the biggest skill you need to be a good maker is humility, right? I mean, you have to have that idea, you have to be comfortable with failure, right? You have to understand that you're not going to do anything great the first time. For me, makerspaces really sort of have been born from open source and open tech backgrounds, where you're not, you want to see what's inside, but then you also want to be open enough to show others what's going on internally. So yeah, I mean, the aspect of having a physical place to do it is really, I would say it's secondary to the people and the openness. If you've seen the OpenBench V1 or even OpenBench V2, it was an empty, abandoned warehouse with like a circular saw and a couple drills. You didn't go there because it was bad. There's probably 50 other places you could have met that would have been more hospitable. But what brought you there was the people, was guys like Jake and you know, the other folks and things. So to me, yeah, the place is less important than the people with it. Definitely, the only way something like this works is that the people is what makes the community, and understand people's willingness to be open is what makes the community. The building is kind of the bonus, right?